Welcome to Class 2 of the Artist's Way Study Group. I'm Kat Fitzpatrick. I am doing this specifically for a good friend of mine and also for anyone interested in this book and, if not the book, then just the process of becoming creative or more creative. Somebody, an older gentleman, messaged me saying he wasn't going to come to my online class tonight because he had just given up on trying to keep up with all the tasks. He likes to write in the evening and not in the morning. He considers himself more of a scientist and not so much an artist. And I encourage him to come anyway, partly because he's been in my classes for years and partly because I want to stress that while I'm facilitating this study group, I am also a participant. I am a facilitator. I'm not a teacher of the text. Julia Cameron's book has worked for millions of people, according to the text here. And that is great. It's offered so many tools, tips, tricks, ways to go about recovering your creative self. But it shouldn't be a block to feeling creative if you don't take up every single thing in the text. And that's why last week I talked about having a span of goals in which you could feel okay. So you might have your stretch goal. You're going to do morning pages every day. You're going to do your artist date every week. You're going to look at all the tasks and work on 2 per. So in the regular study of this, you would take 12 weeks. Because of timing, this is a 6-week class. But that doesn't mean you have to do 4 tasks a week. You could do 2 tasks a week. Or what if you only do 1? That would be a little bit better than doing no tasks at all. So my focus is that life is stressful. We expect so much from ourselves. In fact, today I had a really difficult day because I am trying this thing to get up early. I was up by 5:30 and did some different writing, and then after doing all of the work that I did, I really wasn't sure it was good enough. And then suddenly I'm starting another section of my day. I already feel tired and discouraged. But creativity is like that. It's not all up, it's not all down, and you're not always seeing it clearly, so you can't always judge. When you're working on something that you hope will be published, there's another story because you feel like you have to get it right, but that's a block to creativity. So when we're talking about becoming an artist, recovering, or finding our way of relating to the world more creatively, it can be really difficult. The things that are promoted and advocated for in the Artist's Way are really great tools, but again, if we try to do too much and then we feel like we failed, do we have to throw the baby out with the bathwater? I don't think so. 1% increase in good feelings every day can have an exponential growth over time. So let go of everything that you think you should have done. I'm talking to myself here too. And let go of everything that you think would make you successful, and just hold on to that which actually in the moment makes you feel good. I'm outside right now because I was inside thinking about making this video and thinking to myself, okay, I have to work on the lighting, I have to work on the sound, and it just felt like too much. And I thought, what is one small solution? What's one small antidote? And I said, gosh, if I could just get outside for a little while. And then I thought, oh my gosh, I bet you I can find a log that's been run across by a fox many times. I can tell by all the scat. I don't think I'm sitting in any, but and that maybe perhaps a tree where I could put my phone up. I have a special little holder, and it worked out well. So that's probably the most creative thing I did all day, was to ask that question. What could I do to make this one activity feel a little lighter, a little brighter, feed my soul, even as I do something I love, which is to talk to you, talk about creativity, and encourage others. Sometimes for me, it's frustrating because I feel so in my right place, in my right being when I am encouraging others. And then sometimes when I'm alone, I am not so encouraging. In fact, I want to share with you something that one of her tasks in chapters 1 and 2, remember that's the focus of last week was that reading. One of the tasks that I actually did almost inadvertently, because in my morning, in addition to morning pages, I do something called a sudden fiction, because I just find I feel better after writing fiction. So I try to do even a short bit. This particular entry ended up being almost 2 pages, which is much longer than my usual. And as I was writing it, I realized, oh my gosh, I'm just happen to be taking up one of Julia Cameron's tasks, which was identifying a monster, or talking to somebody or something in your mind that's being grouchy about your creativity, being a monster in the face of your heroine side comes out. So here we go. What do you mean I'm not successful? Said the wayward waif. I thought I was doing, well, not bad. Look at you, said the monster, the cynicidal Retchner. That is a scientific name. The image of health, well rested, or at least prioritizing rest. Socially, emotionally powerful, or at least tuned into being. Full of wisdom, so some say. Well, if so, why are you not on top of the world? King of the hill, or queen, as the case may be. Why are your shouts not louder than the teeming thrall of noise? The little waif looked like she might cry. He was right after all. She had not risen to the status of Jesus Christ superstar, as her mom might have said, referring to greatness, not her status. Still, she met the page with the same panache as always, and yet was still not connected to her inner workings of the great machine of traditional publishing, which, as one person had revealed to her over two decades ago, runs as smoothly as a wagon with square concrete block wheels. The thing that really worried her, the little waif in the thin black dress with the big hollow eyes and dirty wispy hair, was that for all her wins, she still felt this black smear of shame, this tendency to run, not walk, but run into the arms of shamers like this, not for a hug, but to propel them on to an even greater beating. I'm here, I'm yours, she found a part of herself saying. This sabotaging part was not shy, though it was cunning. Almost no one else knew it was around, and yet it was persnickety, and the waif knew she would be better off drawing it out into the open. This weirdo monster's question was the perfect opportunity. She stood up from her dust-covered rock, the one teetering on a precipice filled with mealy worms and large-eyed kangaroo rats looking for their shoelaces, God knows why. She was much taller than you might have expected, and the monster thing had to look up to see into her dark eyes. Why had he thought they were full of fear? They looked full of, was that weariness? Was he boring her? Also, the dress, he thought, that was tattered was really finely woven with a very clear and intricate lace pattern that gave it a gauzy look. And it really was the black of, and was it really the black of the eternally scary pit? Or the black of a velvet night sky right before the stars burst through and the milky moon rises? She looked down into his now confused eyes. What do you mean, why am I not more successful? See this? She lifted a pointer finger, and his eyes followed it, even as it lowered its tip into the middle of his forehead. This mere fingertip has the power to knock you over or lift you up. He could hardly believe his ears. His bulk was not one to be trifled with. She poked him on the nose. Beep. How had she gotten that fingertip from his forehead to his nose? He had not even seen him move. He had not even seen her move. I named thee Sparrowhawk, she said, pressing hard on his nose, but not in a mean way, just in a way that said, I mean business. Her eyes were fierce and yet gentle at the same time. And she turned and strode away without a backward glance. Where was she going? He was not done with her, was he? What had he been doing anyway? He let his bulk sink to the earth. He'd been asking her something important, he thought. But she'd been really too busy, full of her own life, to give him the time of day. Imagine that, someone so full of, well, their own fullness that they didn't have time for his silly, or he meant important questions. He looked up and saw her glance back over her shoulders. Was she blowing him a kiss? That's, so that's sort of a little sudden fiction. Oh, that was my book falling. I thought it was the fox. And again, I didn't really mean to do that, but I did have all these tasks in the back of my mind. And so I just gave into what was coming. Like I always say, follow your pen. And it was embarrassing kind of to read right now because there is this stigma about not being published by the big, any of the big, or falling off your log, by the big publishers. And I'm just such like a, I guess you could say free spirit if you want to put it kindly. And I shy away from following things, following programs, or following protocol. Who knows why, but it does happen. So in this sudden fiction, I took up the task of talking to one of my monsters, and it turned out really fun. I put him in his place, and I got him confused, and it kind of lightened up my heart around this tough question of what is it like to be creative? What is it like to face those parts of us that that are just hiding in the shadows that want to take us down? Now, I don't know if you noticed, but I used the word sparrowhawk. I named my monster Sparrowhawk. That came from the Wizard of Earthsea. If you can watch the video Earthsea, I think it's available on Hoopla, which you can get through your library or through a library, maybe a DVD. It is a great story about facing your shadow. Ursula Le Guin wrote the series, a trilogy, and I think she even added extras on way back in the 60s, I think. But it is a beautiful, beautiful book. One of the lines in there is patience is practice, mastery is patience times 3. Something along those terms. So I didn't talk too much about the artist's way. I didn't go too much into what you should be doing, what is needed to be done. But I do hope that this finds you well, that you can take up the idea of creativity as a spontaneous act, using the artist's way as a guideline, but don't give yourself goals that will make you feel awful if you don't reach them. You can have a reach goal, a middling goal, and it's okay goal. So we've talked about those things. The first 2 chapters, recovering a sense of identity, a sense of safety. This next week, dive into the next 2 chapters, which I don't know what they are off the top of my head. Let me take a peek. Yes, so in the next week, recovering a sense of power and a sense of integrity. The text will help you in some ways, but you also might find tips and tricks in your own life. As they say, keep a weather eye out. And until next time, please do take care.